Round I go to now, I'm thinking this isn't as good as Villa Park. Newcastle are a team on the up, Villa are a team on the up. They're big fan bases, proper loyal fan bases who have been through some hard times and they're really enjoying it again.
There's no better English defender on. John Stones is very different. He's playing a completely different role for Man City, and playing for Manchester City is very different to playing for Villa. So excluding Stones, there's no better performing English central defender.
The 1874 Show by the Villa View.
Hello, welcome back to the 1874 Show on the Villa View with myself, Dan Bardell, and my good friend and athletic Aston Villa correspondent, Gregg Evans. This show is supported by NordVPN. More to come from those guys later. Greg, how are you?
Good, Dan, thanks. Looking forward to the weekend. Can't believe really that Villa are in this position, needing just one win to guarantee European football. So yeah, happy days. How are you?
Good. Season's flown by, I think. A lot's happened in it. In some ways, it feels like about 3 different seasons rolled into one. But in other ways, that Bournemouth game doesn't feel that long ago.
It always does, doesn't it? When you get to sort of May time, you always think, where have the last couple of months gone? And it's always just seems to go really quick, those last few months. Been a bit of a weird, it's been a weird season, hasn't it? For a variety of reasons. The fact that, we had a winter break just to stop for the World Cup over in Qatar, weird enough. And then I suppose it's almost becoming quite normal, isn't it, though, for Villa to get rid of a manager around the end of October? The last...
I hope that doesn't happen next
season. Three of the last, 5 years, is it, that they've done that?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, 3, 5, maybe 6, yeah. So, look, it was obviously a really tough start, wasn't it, for Villa under Gerrard, and it seems like very, very long time ago. But the second half of the season, or the last 3 quarters of the season, should we say, has been excellent.
I mean, if you'd have told me in October that potentially Villa would be going into the last game, having European qualification in their hands as well, not even that they could get Europe, it's actually in Villa's hands as well, and that this would go on to be one of my favourite second halves of the season that I've ever had at Villa as a Villa season ticket holder, I'd have been shocked. There's no way I would have believed it. But how amazing is it that Villa are going into that game next week against Brighton in 7th, knowing that a win guaranteed Europe?
Yeah, and there's a lot of times I fully agree with you. As a reporter, I was thinking, I wasn't ever fearful of Villa going down, but I was more concerned that this was just going to end up in another sort of boring season. Villa finished somewhere, 14th, 15th, somewhere between sort of 10th and 15th. And when Emery came in, that very much was the brief, get away from the relegation zone. If you can squeeze a top half finish for the first time in 12 years, excellent. That would show that, bringing Emery in was justified, that Villa were moving on up and that they were continuing to make the progress, which is what the owners always want to see. The fact that they're 7th now are going into that final game is just amazing. And as you say, to have it in their own hands, brilliant. What was the other question? Sorry.
I don't think there really was a question. It was just the fact that it's amazing that we're going into this last game at the weekend, knowing that if we win, that's Europe. I mean, we could lose and get Europe, in fairness, depending on how the results go. Although I don't really want to risk that. I'd quite like to have a comfortable day at Villa Park on Sunday with no jeopardy and not all this stuff where it's moving around and all the ramifications are changing as you go through the day. Especially if you're trying to find out what's going on at Villa Park as well, because let me tell you, the signal is not brilliant at Villa Park. So trying to find out what's going on might be a bit difficult from the whole team.
We had an issue in the press box a few weeks back, actually, where the Wi-Fi just completely went off. It was one of the night games, and all the reporters were scratching around. We thinking how we're going to file our match reports, and some of the guys that still worked to newspaper deadlines were fretting. But hopefully they get that resolved. What was going to say, actually? Yeah, sorry, Dan, you just reminded me, was the final game of the season, the fact that Villa have got it in their own hands, etc. The fact that it's one game, I think, is great because it's going to suit sort of Unai Emery's style. Now, we know that he's excellent when it comes to finals. He has lost a few, but he's a serial trophy winner, and he manages to get the job done in finals a lot of the times. So effectively, this is a final, isn't it? You know, but you never know what Brighton are going to turn up, what team, whether they're going to be the one that won 6-0 against Wolves or the one that lost 5-1 at Everton. You don't really know with Brighton what you do.
They might not need to turn up. That's the
Well,
other thing, isn't it?
They don't need to.
Well,
they?
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They don't. They're sixth,
They
aren't
don't
they?
need to.
Pretty much whatever, unless there's a massive goal difference between. Unless Man City beat them, not 15-0. Which you know, you wouldn't put past Man City in.
I don't think that much, but
no, you know what I mean, though.
No, look, I mean, Brighton will go into the last game where they won't be needing anything really there. They can go out and play with freedom and enjoy themselves. So sometimes that doesn't work in opponent's favour. But let's so yeah, I think the fact that Emery and with his sort of cup final type experience will be really looking forward to this one, and I think he'll be able to get the job done. John McGinn did an interview after the game against Liverpool. And I always love it when John McGinn comes and stops, because he's probably the best Villa player to interview. Certainly after a game, he's just very honest and he's just down to earth, and he doesn't roll out cliches. He just says what he's thinking, and it's great. A little bit like Jack Grealish. No coincidence that the two of them are very close. Very similar in that respect. But he said, look, that the manager's going to be obsessed this week in finding the weaknesses in Brighton, drilling us into what we got to do, and then hopefully seeing it through. So yeah, it's an exciting time, isn't it?
We've had like end of the seasons where we had to win to get something to stay up. You think of the COVID, the end of that COVID season where Jack Grealish scored against West Ham, and then Villa contrived to concede about a minute later whilst I was still celebrating that goal. We've had moments where we've had to win to try and stay up, and we had to pull that run together. A couple of seasons in the Championship where you've got the playoffs coming, but you've already qualified. But to go into that last game of the season having something positive to play for, I don't remember the last time that really happened, where you're going into the last day knowing that if you win, you're tangibly going to get something. Maybe 97, 98. It's the only one that's jumping to my mind, where Villa needed to beat Arsenal on the last day to get seventh and get Europe. Then a cheeky Dwight York penalty won it on that occasion. 10 men Villa beat already champions Arsenal and qualify for Europe. But there's not too many times where that's happened, and I just think the atmosphere will carry Villa over the line on Sunday. I think there's, in my mind, that point at Anfield on Sunday, I think that's done it. I think that's a massive, massive point, getting that point out, because it's taken us above Tottenham. And Tottenham have been flirting around 6th, 7th now for the whole season. I think now they've fell out of the European qualification place. I think psychologically, their fans don't want to come in the Conference League. Not convinced the players at Tottenham want to play in the Conference League. So I feel like they're coming up against a team in Leeds who desperately need a win, and even that might not be enough to keep them up. So they're playing against a team that's got something to play for. I don't think they want even what we're playing for, Tottenham. So I actually think that point is huge. Brentford have suddenly come a little bit from nowhere, though, haven't they?
They can still be the dark horses and surprise everyone.
I mean, they've hurt us a number of times, Brentford, hadn't they? Imagine if they come and nick it from us at the 11th hour. That would feel very Brentford to me.
Feels like, don't mean this in the wrong way, because Villa have been exceptional under Emery, but it feels almost like over the course of the season that Brentford, for their consistency, almost deserve to have something to show for their end of their season. So if it turns out like that, it wouldn't be a major surprise over the course of the season. I just think that the last couple of games, it's been very much Villa or Tottenham, hasn't it? With Brighton sort of there. So yeah.
Do you think they're going to do it? I think they will. I think everything is just pointing in Villa's favour. Like I say, that home atmosphere. I would back Villa at the moment to beat anyone at home, because they've won 6 in a row. They've barely conceded a goal in that run. I think Villa are now a very, very good home team. And when we've got something to play for, it's a big game, like Newcastle a few weeks ago, and Tottenham to a certain extent 2 weeks ago as well. I think when there's something to play for, that crowd comes alive and the players come alive. And I just think everything kind of merges as one. Everyone's pulling in the same direction. I think it becomes a special place. And I think with the run they've been on, Brighton not really having anything to play for, I feel like the stars have aligned. And like I said, that point, I think, was huge.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, it was almost as equally as important as a win would have been, because Villa would still be going into the next game knowing that they needed either a win or a draw. Like maybe it would have given them a little bit more freedom. But I just think it's a bit better for players if they've got that clarity, knowing they just have to go and win the game. It alleviates any doubt, and it focuses the mind, and they just know they've got to go out, put a performance on from the first kick, and go and get a win. I think
Newcastle last night was a funny one, wasn't it? Because they only needed a point, and suddenly the last 10 minutes they were like, do we sit back now and just try and protect what we've got? And the game became funny, and Leicester nearly scored, didn't they? At the end?
Yeah, it's an awkward position, isn't it? It's like it's like a semi-final when you take a 1-0. When they used to have away goals and all that, knowing that if you go and win 1-0, then you only need a draw in the second, or to lose, etc. But
Villa had it, didn't they, in the playoffs not that long ago when they went to Middlesbrough and won 1-0, and the leg was 0-0 at Villa Park, and it was painful. That was a painful game.
Painful. But I'm glad you got mentioned that game, because if you think of, and we've mentioned this on pods previously, Villa's record in semi-finals at Villa Park, it's amazing. It's unbelievable. It's really, really good, and that just feels like, because the fans are really up for it, they know that they can make a difference, and that's what it should, and I think will be like on Sunday. It will feel like a semi-final or a final at Villa Park or whatever, because it's just a one-off game that Villa literally need to win. It's as simple as that. The whole season has come down to this game, and Villa just need to win it. So every single fan that's going to Villa Park supporting Villa will know that, and they'll be all up for it. I think it'd be a really good atmosphere. Anfield wasn't great, was it really, until the last sort of 10 minutes?
The Liverpool fans. I was in the away end. I would say the atmosphere in the away end was very good.
It was a typically good away following, and wild scenes when Villa scored. Always good to look at. But Anfield, it just felt, every ground I go to now, I'm thinking this isn't as good as Villa Park when over the last couple of weeks, months. St James's Park maybe been the only sort of one.
I think they'd be the two, wouldn't they?
But
them two in Anfield.
There's a reason though for that, isn't there? It's because Newcastle are a team on the up, Villa are a team on the up. They're big fan bases, proper loyal fan bases who have been through some hard times, and they're really enjoying it again. Liverpool have been spoiled, haven't they? And like when I was just walking around Anfield a couple of hours before the kickoff, it felt very touristy, whereas where it felt like people were just there for the day out. They weren't sort of like hardcore Liverpool fans. Whereas when I'm at Villa, it always feels like it's a proper sort of community, a proper Villa. But I suppose that's what happens when you're at such a huge club like Liverpool, and you've got that massive global brand. So many people from different areas of the world want to come and visit and watch the games, and nothing wrong with that, because I think Villa would quite like that. Villa's owners would certainly like it if Villa could move towards that type of club as well, and attract new supporters. So, but that's one good thing to take from this season. The atmosphere is back at Villa Park now, and let's hope it can stay, because it does make a difference.
Yeah,
and,
it really does.
Players over the years who have said that when the fans are against them, it really does make it difficult. But when they're with them, it significantly helps.
Yeah, I mean, feasibly, with this manager, it should stay like this for years to come. I would think it's just the perfect manager for us. It's the perfect fit. I like what you said probably about 5 minutes ago now. It's like the clarity of knowing that you need to win. Like if we're going into that game on Sunday, and that a win might be enough, but you've got to rely on results around you. That becomes a very different atmosphere. That becomes very touchy. I think that clarity for everyone, including the fans, I do think that's really, really important going into Sunday. It's a shame they didn't win at the weekend. I think they got to 90 minutes, 1-0 up, didn't they? They did a lot of defending in that second half. But I will say that when Firmino scored and then 10 minutes of stoppage time came up, I'd resign myself to defeat.
Yeah,
I just thought there's another goal coming here. This is just what happens. 10 minutes is a lot. We're going to struggle to pin them back. But actually, in that stoppage time, there's that resilience from Villa again. Yes, they conceded late, but in years gone by, they conceded late and then conceded again. But they didn't do that. They didn't capitulate. They remained resolute. I don't remember Liverpool really making too much happen in that 10 minutes. And they needed a win. Liverpool, they wanted to win that game. They needed to.
Yeah, obviously a very heavily Liverpool-focused press box, and speaking to a lot of the people that go regularly to games, in the press box, they said that Liverpool's performance in the first half was up there with the worst of the season, and certainly in recent months, because what you got to remember is I keep saying Villa. Liverpool had a 7-game run of wins, going into that game. They were looking almost untouchable again, scoring loads of goals, but they just couldn't create anything. Thought Kamara was really important, bringing him back into the midfield. That was another masterstroke from Emery. Dropping Buendia and putting Kamara in there. I thought he was, so good at winning the ball back. Blocking runners and just making those interceptions. Just the basic stuff that a good defensive midfielder should do, but not all of them can. He was brilliant. Mings, sensational as well. Do you
think he should have been sent off, Mings?
No.
You usually give a less biased answer than
no.
I didn't think so either.
No.
But he was colossal.
Oh God, he was unbelievable. I feel sorry for Konza, because I always seem to be talking about how good Mings is, but equally Konza has been very good as well. But I just think that Mings just does the other things that stand out a little bit more. He always wins those first contacts at headers, first contacts at corners. With his head, he does the stuff that sort of gets highlighted a bit more. The blocks and the crunching tackles here and there. And I just think he's had a brilliant season. To think back to that opening day, he was dropped by Gerrard. He'd lost the captaincy. I remember interviewing him a couple of weeks after, and he was, it was before the World Cup, and I think privately he knew that he wasn't going to the World Cup at that point, but didn't really want to talk too much about it because he wanted to focus on getting back to being a top performer for Villa. And I just think everything he said in that interview, which I did for The Athletic, he achieved in the months ahead. And look, I'd love to see Mings and Stones as an England partnership.
Mings has got to be in that squad. He's playing the best football of his life at the moment, and he's playing to such a high level that I think there is only John Stones as a centre half that's up there with him at the moment. And
I do firmly believe if he's not in this next England squad, then this manager will never pick him, because how can he? How can he not
pick him when he was not playing as well? That's the weird thing.
How can he not be in the team now ahead of Coda, Maguire? Dyer, who's been dropped to the bench. Maguire doesn't even play. Cody hardly plays. John Stones has been great, so keep him in the squad. But have John Stones and Tyrone Mings, give that a go. Two players who could pass their way out of defence, but also be actual stoppers as well.
2 clean sheets in the Euros when they played together as well. Those two.
Yeah, I mean, look, Mings has never let England down. So if you're going to say that the reason Harry Maguire is picked because he's done well for England, which he has, you should also look at Mings as well.
I mean, how long can Maguire not play for Manchester United and get?
It's unsustainable, isn't it?
I understood it for the World Cup. This is almost now. It's not almost now. It's a new campaign, isn't it? You're focusing towards something else. Just thinking being left-footed as well is such a massive thing in any type of football, but especially in international football. There's no better English defender on. John Stones is very different. He's playing a completely different role for Man City, and playing for Manchester City is very different to playing for Villa. So excluding Stones, there's no better performing English central defender in the Premier League. Maybe Lewis Dunk, but he's had a couple of he's had a few off recently.
Dunk's been great, and it does deserve recognition because of the season he's had. But Brighton have conceded a lot of goals lately, and he's part of that defence. So. Everything stacks up favourably for Mings because he's playing exceptionally well, so he passes the eye test, and the stats back it up. Villa have conceded 5 goals in 13 games from open play. Mings is a big part of that.
He's conceded 9 in the last 18, I think.
It's very much a team game, of course, and it's Emery and his coaching team and their elite coaching that have helped create this difficult to break down team. But Mings is at the heart of it. Put him in an England team with better players alongside him, he could be even better.
Well, I always thought, Mings has always played well for England. I've never seen him have a bad game for England. I always thought, I've loved him for Villa for years. Everyone knows that. But I always thought when he was getting in the England squads and the teams, when he was playing for England, I always thought he looked a bit more assured. And I always wondered what the reason why would be for that than he did for Villa. Villa, I think at times he maybe took on too much responsibility, trying to be in too many places at once. I think that affected his game. But the other thing is, the one thing you can say about Southgate in England, they've got a defined defensive structure, haven't they?
Yeah,
So
true.
if you put Mings, and Emery's got that as well with Villa, so if you put Mings within a defined defensive structure, he's going to give you performances because that's what he's done for England, and that's exactly what he's done for Villa the whole time Unai Emery's been. Is if you give Mings a defined defensive structure, I don't think there's a better defender to play next to John Stones at the moment. I fully expect to see Maguire's name in the squad, but there's no justification for him playing at the moment. And if Eric Dyer's been horrific the last few months. Cody's not played, like you say. There's Gay at Crystal Palace, Lewis
and Ben White as well. But it's how much does he want it? How much does he? So
Mings has got it. He's got to. Not only should he be in the squad, he should be starting. What have obviously the England squad's been announced on Wednesday. This is quite topical actually. What of Ollie Watkins, because the goals have dried up. He missed a penalty at the week. I feel sorry for him because you can see I felt like he got away from beating himself up when he missed chances, and because I think he's gone a few games without scoring, I kind of feel he's gone back to holding himself responsible for things again. Now the goals have dried up, but he's probably done enough to still be in there. But Wilson has obviously come alive in the last few weeks as well.
From what I'd heard, that he was very close to being called up. I hope that nothing has changed over these last couple of weeks. I think he's got 5 games now. He hasn't scored 5 or 6. And obviously the missed penalty at the weekend, won't do his confidence any good. But he had a really good run of games. Really, really good season. One that he'll look back on and be pleased with. Really pleased with, because it has been a great season for him overall.
Phenomenal.
I think he'll be in the squad. Yeah, I think
Southgate likes him.
I think he's done enough. Steve Holland went and watched him a couple of times. Home and away. Southgate went to a lot of Villa games when he was scoring lots of goals. And he's worked with him before, so he knows what he's like. He knows his hard work ethic. He would have spoke to people at Villa to find out a little bit more. And if he's spoken to Unai Emery, then he's going to have had a glowing reference, because Emery absolutely loves his work rate and his dedication. Emery always talks about footballers needing to dedicate their life to football. And Watkins is pretty much one of those guys who does that. Yes, he obviously has a bit of downtime with his family and stuff, but he's very dedicated to getting better. And that's what Emery likes.
Ivan Toney's obviously going to be missing as well, isn't he, for a sustained period? He got in the last squad, so there is a vacancy as backup to Harry Kane. It's probably out of him or Wilson at the moment. What of Jacob Ramsey? Another goal for him. Scores in the big games, having a great productive second half of the season. How far is he?
He's certainly one that they'll be monitoring, because Southgate likes the system of coming through, and he's obviously played for under 21s. I expect he'll have a really big summer at the under 21s in Georgia. It'd be huge for him. He'll be one of the key players in that England team. Fully expect them to go right to the distance, if not win it.
He won't be in this squad, will he?
Because of he won't be in this England squad. Very, very much. If he is, incredible, but I don't think so. No, he's a big part of the 21s. And I think next season will be the one that he'll be looking to break into the England squad if he continues performing the way he is now. Doing really well. And what about that free kicks routine? You see that one? That was amazing, wasn't it? That was very, very, very clever.
Aston Villa special.
Yeah, very clever. Go back to the structure at Villa. Now, if you remember, under Gerrard, Austin McPhee used to come under a bit of criticism, I think, didn't they?
Harsh.
Fans weren't really having him. They were like, who's this blonde-haired guy who keeps coming out of the dugout, waving his arms around, organising stuff, and we keep conceding from free kicks? Now, I think that was very basic to say that, but kind of understandable if you don't know the context behind it. But there wasn't actually that much buy-in, I believe, from Gerrard. It was almost a case of...
inherited him, didn't he? He was just there.
Yeah, and it was almost a case of, right, so we'll do our training session and then go and spend 15 minutes with McPhee, working through whatever he wants to do, and then that'd be it, kind of thing. Whereas Emery, if you look now, Emery's the man on the dugout. Emery's the man out in his technical area, but not a single one of his coaches ever get up. The only other person that gets up is McPhee, and that's because he's so close to it all now. He's so connected. Emery sees the benefit of set pieces as he does with every other facet of the game, and Villa are spending a lot more time on it now. But Whereas before it was a case of go and have a session with, McPhee and do what you want kind of thing. Now all the plan that it's all centralised. So everything that they do together, the players with McPhee, will be under Emery's guidance, and then they'll bring things into the game. And I just thought that was, it's great to watch, isn't it? A couple of different corner and free kick routines. I think what they were trying to do with Ramsey is because they realised how quick he is over a short distance, that he could out sprint any of the Liverpool defenders. I presume that's what they were thinking. And the only criticism, I suppose, is that he probably should have just pulled it back to Watkins rather than shooting. When he
was
got
out
into
quick.
that position.
I think it would have been difficult to get it across. Just from watching the replays, it would have been difficult. It's a great move,
clever move, and it's good to see Villa doing things like that. And they're having some good results from free kicks and corners now, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it was harsh to criticise him. I remember actually tweeting something how like basic it was to every time you can see the goal from set piece, blame Austin McPhee. It just wasn't fair. But it's great to see that. Again, it shows the difference between the two managers, doesn't it? Emery's inherited him, but he's letting him do what he's good at. A little bit like
and if he was crap, he'd have got rid of him.
Yeah, no, he's
got rid of him.
The Villa fans now, they like. I can tell you, they like him. They like Austin McPhee now. I can tell you that's exactly the vibe. In the stands, they like Austin McPhee.
Yeah, I think so.
I love it when we get a free kick and he gets up. There's something about it that I find really satisfying. Every time Villa have a set piece, he emerges from the dugout. I don't know what it is about it, but I always have a look to see. Oh, there he is. Austin's on the move again.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because he's the only guy out of the coaching team that gets up, and I mean that's Emery giving him that freedom and responsibility.
No room for anyone else when Emery's there.
No, and other set piece coaches at other clubs I know typically tend to stay on the in the dugout because they feel that it's the manager that should be promoting things, but each club's different, aren't they? So
yeah, right then. Let's have a quick word from our sponsors, NordVPN. We'll come back and we'll talk about the Villa backroom stuff because there's been some strange goings on. If you're getting fed up of missing all the live football, then our new show sponsor, NordVPN, will be able to help you out. NordVPN is a secure and private service which works on pretty much any device, including your laptop, mobile, and smart TV. So if you want to watch, let's say, some live US content, it allows you to appear like you're in that country. And whilst you're connected, no one can find out what you're doing, including your internet service provider. Beyond this, the service also has threat protection baked in to protect you from intrusive website ads and malware, which is pretty handy. As part of NordVPN supporting the Villa View, they've given us an exclusive deal of up to 65% off and 4 months for free. This also includes Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. All you got to do is go to thevillaview.tv/NordVPN and sign up. All the details will be in the description of this video. And as always, we're truly grateful to anyone that signs up. We know money's tight, but if you think NordVPN is worthwhile and it's going to help you out, then this really helps us keep the channel running. All the best, up the Villa. Right then, thank you very much for NordVPN for continuing to sponsor us. Don't know why I keep saying before that we'll hear from them, because it's not them, it's me talking about them. But thank you to them for backing the show. Right then, Greg, we recorded our pod last week. Alemany not coming now. What's happened?
Yeah, it was quite a chaotic week last week, trying to get to the bottom of all this and the reasons why Alemany decided that he didn't fancy the job at Villa and actually, as some sort of sporting director or technical director, the term wasn't defined, but he was going to come into a position of that sort of nature. Barcelona, as we all know, announced that he was leaving and that he would be leaving on July the 1st. He was expected to join Villa because he knew Emery, he knew Vidagani, who works alongside Emery, and was interested in the project at Villa. He actually came over to Birmingham to speak about it. But
sorry to interrupt you. I've done that a couple of times. So sorry. You say he's interested, but he'd informed Barcelona he was going a year early. So that's more than being interested, isn't it?
Well, he was leaving Barcelona.
Yeah.
He was leaving Barcelona. That there was kind of no doubt about that because Barcelona had announced it. So we were all very clear that he was leaving. It was then his prerogative to go and speak to whoever he wanted to at that point, because Barcelona knew he was leaving. Villa were interested. He was interested in Villa. He went and had a chat with them. People at Villa expected him to then join. And then all of a sudden, Jordi Cruyff leaves Barcelona. The news filters out of Spain that Alemany's decided that he wants to stay.
Are those two things related, do you think?
Possibly. I haven't got to the bottom of that yet, but possibly. My links with Barcelona aren't as close as others, but
I don't be calling you Global Greg anymore. Then.
so yeah, I mean, maybe, but I don't know the answer to that. All I know is that he's staying at Barcelona. He fancied another opportunity. It felt like when they won the league, perhaps there was a slight emotional connection when he went back and celebrated. And look, he came out publicly and said, I don't want to leave this great club. It's one of the biggest clubs in the world, if not the biggest. And I think he felt that he had started the project and he didn't want to give that up. And moving to Villa, a much smaller club than Barcelona, is perhaps not what he wanted at that point. And we were talking about this last week, weren't we? We were saying the fact that Villa have been able to get a key decision maker out of Barcelona and into Villa shows an incredible pull from a 7th place Premier League team. It shows how ambitious this club are, but deep down, it was always going to be tough. He never signed anything. He was just expected to come, but he didn't actually sign the contract. So it was a surprise, I have to admit. I think we were all a little bit surprised by it. People in high positions at the football club at Villa were surprised by it as well. So, I've never been involved in anything like that where, an official like that announces that he's leaving a massive club. He joins another and just can't remember anything that I've certainly not covered anything like that before in my career.
It feels like he's used us. Obviously, I'm basing that off nothing but opinion, but it does feel like he's used Villa a little bit. But he came to Birmingham, so you surely wouldn't have bothered with that if he didn't have any interest. It's a bit Fabian Delph, but for my liking. Do you think, did Villa, once he said he didn't want to come, did Villa try and persuade him otherwise, or is Villa just? Well,
I think it's almost not like he's rejected Villa. It's like he's decided to stay at Barcelona, if that kind of makes sense, because he still had a year left on his contract, so that hadn't actually officially ended. It had just been announced by the Barcelona that he was leaving on July 1st. So
he'll get a new contract.
He didn't really need to change anything, but just decided that he's going to stay again. And I don't know the finer details of it, but Villa haven't been rocked by it. Yes, it was disappointing, but they've got a very strong structure in place still. It's not going to affect really anything day to day. You just wonder whether Alemany coming in would have helped them go to a new level because of the qualities that he had. Yes, they will still look to hire another sporting director or someone in that role. I mentioned previously, Johan Langer, the current sporting director, will be staying with it, a senior role within V Sports. We've seen 2 of Emery's long-term allies come to the club this week in recruitment roles: Pablo Rodriguez and Alberto Benita.
You know their names.
It's kind of my job to remember their names, but
I should know as well, in fairness.
So yeah, but I mean, look, both of them met Emery a couple of decades ago when he was a player. Rodriguez played with him first, I think, and then Benito played with him later in his career. I think him and Benito, Emery and Benito were very close. They used to room together at one of the clubs they played for. And also Benito was the sporting director of Almeria when Emery was manager, and the 2 of them took them into La Liga for the first time ever. So they had a bit of success there, yeah. And yeah, look, both of the recruitment guys are specialists in their field. They've dealt with scouting for a long time. Rodriguez was a opposition analyst for Villarreal when Emery was manager, but also did a little bit of scouting as well. So yeah, they'll just come in and enhance the support network that Emery's got, and work closely with the current head of recruitment, Rob McKenzie.
I mean, I think Alemany turning us down I think he would have opened up a different market for Villa potentially. I think that may have been the main reason for him coming. Again, this is my opinion, not based on anything that I know. I just think him having been at Barcelona, his contact book and maybe access and things like that, I think it would have opened up a market for Villa. Like, for example, I think Villa certainly would have signed someone from Barcelona in the summer, and they still might invest. But I just think it would have opened up a different market for Villa. Unai Emery is very much going to be having a massive say in who comes in, so he'll have identified players that he wants, and it's up to the people around him to then go and get those players for him. So I think the sporting director not coming in terms of who Emery wants, I don't think it'll affect it that much. I did an interview earlier, and they asked me about this, and they were kind of saying, well, because Villa are bringing in 2 scouts essentially from La Liga, does that mean that Villa will just be shopping in La Liga? I think that's a bit of a naive way to look at it, because just because 2 people have worked for a La Liga club doesn't mean that the only players they know about playing La Liga. In fact, it's the opposite, isn't it? There's probably not loads of trading that goes on between La Liga clubs. It's going and getting players from
elsewhere, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I think Villa will sign someone, at least one player from La Liga in the summer, if I'm being perfectly honest. But just because they've bought 2 scouts in who've got La Liga experience, that doesn't necessarily translate to Villa are just looking at La Liga.
No, definitely not. I think, look, it will help, of course. You know, and also, I'm not entirely agreeing with you when you say that Alemany would have opened up a new market, because I think the fact that Villa are getting 2 scouts or recruitment guys from Spain also opens up that market as well. If you get what I'm saying, Benito, you know, leaving Real Betis,
who've done well.
Who've done very well, yeah. And Rodriguez, obviously at Villarreal, he spent 10 years at Valencia as well. So, you know, they're experienced guys who know the market well over in Spain. So I think what Alemany would have brought is just that real high level experience and nous to get the deals done at, you know, the top level, because he's had to do a lot, hasn't he, at Barcelona in times of trouble. And they've created a team that have gone and won the league, and would have been very competitive in the Europa League, I think, if they'd have squeezed past Man United. You know, probably would have backed them to go on and win that as well. So, it would have helped Villa. They are disappointed, but it doesn't mean everything's broken. There's a good structure in place already, and there is still room for somebody else to come in.
Usually, you know, when Villa would have identified that they wanted someone in that position, you usually do have like it won't just be one person on a list. Like when you're buying a player, there's 1, 2, and 3, 4 even. Do you think it would have been like that for this role, where they'll have had other people who they may have turned to if their initial approaches have been rebuffed, or he just wasn't interested to begin with?
Well, I think that's what will happen now. And look, you know, Villa have been a club that have got a lot of their deals done quietly and efficiently over the last few years. You know, through Christian Perslow's leadership, and obviously Johan Lang working closely with him. The fact that Emery's now got a little bit more power means that you'll probably see a lot of transfer stories coming out in Spain early, and deals like the Alemany one that was nearly put together. Doesn't look great on Villa, really, the fact that this was played out so publicly and has now gone against them. Yes,
why did that happen then? Because that doesn't usually happen. You're right. That doesn't. It just came out, didn't it?
I think what you see in that Villa is that Emery has a little bit more power, so it's Emery making more of the footballing decisions. We'll have to see what happens in the times ahead, but it's very much Emery now targeting the players, whereas before it was more of a collective effort. Obviously, each person in high roles at Villa will still have a very important part to play at the football club, but the football decisions now are very much Emery focused. So yeah, in football, of course, there are always first, second, third, fourth, fifth targets. And, you know, clubs like Villa, they don't always get their first choice targets because they're not top of the list, like Man City and Liverpool and Barcelona and Real Madrid. It's just the way it works. And the next guy coming in will know that he wasn't first choice. And people who have seen how this has played out publicly might think, well, why would somebody want to come in if they know they're second choice? But typically in football that happens all the time anyway.
Because you can come and do a job well and gain your
Yeah,
reputation,
you
mate.
know.
Reputation bigger. If you
That's
get
what I
that
mean.
job, you don't care whether you're set first or second choice. You've got the job. It's up to you then to put your stamp on it and do the best. Football people aren't. They don't look at it like that where they're second choice or something. They don't look at it like that at all. They just think this is a massive opportunity. Or someone will see it as a huge opportunity to come and work for a massive club and really work at an exciting time for that club as well. And we know that Emery is very, very ambitious with the players that he would like as well, isn't he? He's got some big hitters on that list. He might not get them all, but he's not messing around, is he, Emery? Strong belief.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact that they're really into Marco Asensio at Real Madrid just kind of says the level that
Anything in Ceballos, because his name's popped up a few times. Right?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. I'm still trying to find out on that. But I know Villa will be looking at a midfielder. So he's somebody that would probably fit the profile. Yeah, just got to find out if there is any serious interest in him. There definitely is in Asensio, but Real Madrid, Asensio wants to stay at Real Madrid. So if they can agree terms on a new contract, probably expect him to do that because leaving Real Madrid for Villa is still a massive difference, isn't it?
Huge step up. It's a huge step up. Imagine that double free transfer swoop from Real Madrid, Ceballos and Asensio. That'd be some great savings in there towards the rest of the squad, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and look, Villa have been clever in the last window. They got Kamara in on a free. You look at the time the players they were interested in before, Bissouma and Bentancur. I rate both of them. I think they're both very good players, but I do think Kamara is better. I think Villa did so well to get that deal done. Steven Gerrard actually played a big part in that.
He did.
Got to give him credit. You got to give the guys behind the scenes, Langer and his team and Christian Perslow credit for getting the deal done and identifying him and doing all the data to backgrounds. But Gerrard did play a part in that. Going to his house, convincing him to come. Kamara was really interested in playing for a player like Steven Gerrard. So
yeah,
that do help. It's just a shame he didn't get enough time to get the best out of him, or wasn't able to get the best out of him.
Yeah, that's fair. I've not criticised him enough. He did play a huge part in getting Kamara into it. He does deserve credit for that because that's I'd say £50 million footballer that Villa have picked up for a free. If Villa were to sell him now, they'd get at least 50 million for him.
He's a top player. Yeah, he's a top player.
He's going to get better if he can stay fit. Next season will be a really, really big season. It's a shame for him. He's had a couple of disruptions this season with injuries, but the bits we have seen of him, he's been absolutely brilliant. Kamara,
it's quite exciting, isn't it? Kamara, Louise, McGinn,
is brilliant,
and a new midfielder coming in. Those four real, and then obviously Ramsey in his sort of a more attacking role.
I think Ramsey could play in one of those front two positions. I liked that McGinn was there against Liverpool. It was McGinn who was kind of alongside Watkins, wasn't he? I mean, you haven't really got a position, have you? Like you're coming in, but McGinn's not a striker, but yet he can play there for Villa, and it works because it's Unai Emery. It's weird, isn't it?
McGinn keeps banging on about being old. It's weird. He keeps sort of referencing it every time I see him. He's like,
how old
too old for this, or I'm getting on a bit now, and it's like
28, 27.
But I'm just wondering if he's feeling it a bit. I mean, he's certainly not showing any signs of slowing up when he's playing. He's getting better, if anything, isn't he? He's in great form. But he keeps mentioning it.
I remember when Connor played one of his last games in the Premier League and for Villa, and I was speaking to him. I think it was a Fulham game where he scored. And I remember messaging him and saying, "You're our oldest player today, veteran Conor Harran." He was only 30.
Oh, he's only 32 now, isn't he? Yeah.
I mean, he might have been 29. He couldn't believe that he was the oldest player in the team. So I think they do feel it as it goes on footballers. Have we got anything else to cover before we go? I did have something else to ask you, and it's completely popped out.
Yeah, I mean,
shows you should make notes.
Player of the Year awards tonight, the official awards, isn't it, at Villa? As we're recording. I mean, look, I've said previously, I still think Emi Martinez is my Player of the Year for reasons I've gone into previously. I fully expect Louise or Tyrone Mings to get it tonight.
Them too, I think now.
Ramsey might be in there with one of the other awards. He's done well as well. But yeah, it's great that Villa have got so many candidates. So that should be a good night.
Yeah, I went last year. I'm not going this year, but tightening of the purse strings at Bardell HQ. But yeah, I did go last year and it was enjoyable. So I imagine this year will be even better because because
you're not there.
Yeah, because you're not there, I'm not there. It'll be absolutely fantastic. No, because it's a feel good, isn't it? It's the feel good.
Yeah,
There was somehow some kind of feel good this time last year, even though we were absolutely awful to watch. I think we just expected it to be a big sum. We just thought some of the people would. Villa put a lot on it being a big summer, didn't they? And they were going to get it right. Obviously, they didn't, but they're in a brilliant place now. Anyway, let's go. We'll be back next week with another episode of 1874. Do check out that NordVPN deal because it's really, really helpful if you wanted to go into the reasons that I spoke about in the piece earlier on. Yeah, preview shows Thursday, Friday, as usual, I expect. So, yeah, myself and Dave Reid will be doing a match preview. Myself and Stato doing the stats preview. We'll get together, won't we, Greg, next week and do an end-of-season show, do an end-of-season review. And, yeah, thanks ever so much for all the support. Great numbers across all platforms on 1874 last week. And, yeah, lots of nice feedback on social media for Greg and myself. So we hope you've enjoyed the pod. Greg and myself certainly enjoyed doing it. Those that are going to the player awards, they'll have already happened. I hope you have an excellent time. And we'll see everyone on Sunday.